right, welcome back, everybody. Today we're going to be doing some practice in the Everything Journal, Creative Everything Journal, sketchbook, whatever you want to call it. That's what I'm going to call it. I did finally get my pages, um, the holes in the bottom so I could put the elastics on. I had extra, so I just braided it. That's fine. And once I'm done this, I will do the inside covers. But for now, this is how I'm going to do it. And they're just doubled. And I'm going to be using jelly plate papers because I have a ton of them, and I know you probably do too. And some of them have, what's it called? It's an ink. I can't think of the name, but it's actually a soybean ink, and we'll see how that goes. But because I use some fairly thin papers, butcher paper actually, in some of these jelly prints, writing with certain types of ink will come through. So you have to take mind of that and test your inks before you start using them on the opposite side. The one I found the best that doesn't seem to bleed through is the Sharpie pen, not marker, pen. It seems to stay put and it doesn't bleed. You could probably try some jelly roll pens. Maybe they would work. I don't have any of those right now. But what I'm trying to do in this is for you guys, do some of these digi printouts that I've got on my Patreon and on my YouTube memberships for all levels, and we'll practice sketching some of these and painting them. So this isn't just for cutting out and gluing. I've made these up so that you can actually use them for practicing your sketching or painting. Or if you don't want to sketch, some people aren't interested in that, and that's fine. This is for you. This is so you can do your journals or planners, whatever you want to use these in is fine with me. Just have fun with it. That's the only thing I want you to do is have fun with it. Okay. So I've already started. And as you can see, it's nothing crazy. It was just me. This represents cantha quilts that I gave my family, all my kids and grandkids. And then that's just me walking with some gifts to my son's house. And that's the beginning page of January. So this is one of the digis that was on. It was in this part here, and I just cut it out. So you can still use the borders for what you want, or you could actually have this as a reference for when you do watercolor painting or acrylic, whatever you're going to be using. So I thought it would be kind of fun to do some sketching or painting of what winter represents to you. So I did a few things, but if you have more, you could put those in there. And I'm just going to put a few on this page. And this is another jelly print. So it already has some acrylic paint on there. Now I'm going to paint mine with a craft paint because it's matte finish once dry. And therefore, it's not going to stick to the other pages. If you're going to use a acrylic paint artist grade, they're a little bit shinier and they will stick together if you put them in a book. So you either have to put a matte medium over top of it once you're done, or you get some type of a wax. You could even get a candle and just rub over your page, and a lot of times that will work too. So I love snowmen. So we're gonna do a snowman and then maybe some hats or boots or whatever. And it's just gonna be a kind of a collage of different things here. So I'm just gonna get one of my lids. These are lids from my coffee that I like to use. That way I'm not using up all kinds of styrofoam. I know some people like to use styrofoam plates. I want to keep the styrofoam out of the landfills. Um, and I use this for years, these plates. Now you can get the wet pellets now, and they are great. I do have a really big one, but I like using those for when I'm doing canvases. Um, Not when I'm filming because it just doesn't fit on my table. Um, I did order a smaller one though that seems to be a good size. So this is going to be our reference. So I'm going to do this little snowman here. And these are all fairly simple. So I have December and January. So you can still download those and they're up on the your community tab. If you look on YouTube in the memberships, it'll be in there. And then also on Patreon, you can scroll down and find them there. So we are going to need a white, and this one's done in actually watercolor. If you want to do watercolor, you can do watercolor. Just use a watercolor paper, and then you can glue it right on here. There's no rules to this creative everything book. It's whatever you want to test. And that's what I'm doing this for. So I can have it all in one spot instead of trying to find it in numerous other books. I This will be a test for this year, and I'm going to see what I think about it once I'm done at the end of the year. So this looks like Payne's gray or a very dark navy blue will do in your craft paint. And I like using Americana or Delta, whatever you have on hand, use it. Payne's gray. We got Payne's gray, an orange. An orange, and his mitts are red, and a white. I believe I have white out here. Yes, I do. A little bit. Now this is the golden white, so it will be a little bit shiny, but I don't. It should be fine because I'm going to be mixing it with the blue. So we'll start with that, and let's see, what other colors am I going to need? A little bit of a sienna color for his arms. And there's the sienna. So this is burnt sienna. Burnt orange, cherry red, and Payne's gray and white. So that's going to be our first one. So I like to use a graphite pencil or doesn't have to be a special pencil. A lot of times I use those if I can find it. The trouble with taking stuff upstairs. I don't think of bringing stuff like this back down. Um, well, this is a Stedler HB. That'll do. I don't want a heavy line, just something that can be seen a little bit because I don't want to have to redo it. So I could have it right on here so it's waving hi to me, which would be cute. And you could stick with the same height, or you can make it bigger or smaller, whatever you want to do. So again, look at the shapes. So we have a huge bottom circle, and I'm not worried about it being a little wonky because most snowmen are kind of a little wonky. And then we have a skinny little body and then a little bit bigger head like that. So he's kind of a little bit wonky. And then his arm comes up. So I'm noticing where the joint comes in relation to his head. So about where the middle point where his eyes are. And then it curves up. And you could make little nubs where his elbow are. And then he's got this great big mitt. And everyone can do a mitt. And you could make this a little bit different. You don't have to keep it exactly like this one. Now his other mitt kind of hides most of his body. So it comes down like that, even comes down into his body area here. And then like this. And then you see the little arm like this. And then it kind of comes up like that. There's a little bit, you can see a little space there, but do your best. And if it's not quite, that's fine too. He has little feet. You don't have to do the feet. I like them. So I'm going to put the feet in. And they do come out like this. And this one here comes out a little bit and then up. Now he's got a cute little smile. And notice how the smile is. It's fairly down low. You can make, no, I think I'm going to keep the wonkiness of the head. It'll change his look a little bit, but he's got a really wide smile and then a little dot there. And then his nose kind of points up a little bit. Okay. And it comes out a fair amount like that. And then his eyeball sits almost on the edge here. Okay. And then the other one is kind of level with this part. So it comes about almost there. And then he has a little eyebrow. And then another little eyebrow. It's fairly high up. So like that. And then, of course, there's little ridges in the carrot nose. You can put those in. But that's it. He doesn't have any buttons, but you could put buttons in. Make it yours. All right, so now I'm going to add my paint. Well, there's quite a bit of white. And I'm almost done this, so good to get it done. And then I can clean the bottle out, put some more in it. I'll put it upside down so it slowly moves that way. here. And then we want the Payne's gray. So make sure you shake up your craft paint. I love doing craft paint on my pages. It's cheap. It's matte finish, so you don't have to worry about it sticking. Plus, when it's matte, you can add colored pencil to it, which I love to do. Some red. We don't need a lot of red, just a smidge. A little smidge of orange and a little bit of sienna. So the most colors you need are the white and the blue, Payne's gray. And that's it. Now make sure you have I better put them somewhere else so I don't get them dirty. This is a little bit of a smaller image, so don't work too big with brushes. And probably I would use either an angled flat. So this is an angled flat brush here. Oh, it needs to be glued apparently. Let's try another one. Okay, this is a dagger striper, but it's angled also. So that's an eighth of an inch. You could do that, or you could use a round. This is just a very inexpensive one. I don't think it even has no, it doesn't even have what size it is. It looks to be about a 6 maybe. They all are a little different as far as companies giving the right size. Everybody seems to be different for some reason. Let's see. I'm going to take this one here. This one is Expressions, Robert Simmons, the number 4 round. So that's all I should need unless I want to get really particular about maybe the mouth, but I could use a Posca or an acrylic marker will work too. Make it as easy as possible. They were made for that, so take advantage of using Poscas and stuff when you can, because they're so much easier. All right, so let's start off with the body first, and I'm going to use just a bit bigger brush. So here's another. This is a Robert Simmons 1/4 inch, and this is a sword also. They're so similar to angled. You just want something with a little bit of a point, so you could use that point if you need to. So I'm going to take some of this blue here, and I'm just going to dip the very tip of my brush, and then take some of this and make it not quite white. And then just cover those areas up. Now I did have the paint on there from before, so I want to cover that up. Depending on what you're using, if you have a pattern on there, you might need to do 2 coats, depending on your paint you're using too. And that's fine. And I like to also, while the paint is wet, take advantage of it for shading and adding a little bit of dimension. So down here, his foot is much darker than his body. So let's put that in a little bit darker. Let's see. I think I can bring you guys in a little bit. Should do ya. So a little bit more on my brush and make that it's even darker in here where the foot meets the body. And just use the tip of your brush. And this is a very loose way of painting. You're kind of painting on your surface at the same time, but it's fun. And then he does have shadow underneath him. So let's put a little bit more of that there. A little bit more on here. And he'll be bumpy because he's snow. Okay. That. A little bit in there, going up there. And then I'm gonna take a little more white on my brush. I haven't cleaned my brush off. And I'm just blending in that basically. Okay. Get a little bit more dark on the where it meets. And then just wipe your brush instead of rinsing it. Just taking the one end. Just darkening some of that area. There'll be a little bit of a darker area in there. So you just use your wet paint while you can. Wipe it off again. A little bit of white on my brush. Blend that in a little bit. Remember, he has shape. So you're going to want to pay attention to the shadow areas. So he's got quite a bit of shadow coming down on this right side. And shadows always are gradient to the most part. Sometimes there are sharp edges, but a lot of times they aren't. So you want to soften them as they go away from the whatever area it is that they're being shadowed from. Under here, it's going to be darker by his mitt. Just add a little bit. I haven't washed my brush yet, so I'm basically mixing on my page. Okay, a little bit more in here. Be fairly dark right where those two areas meet. And then under his chin here will be dark. Kind of goes up the back of his head. And then don't forget this part. Put it in the white. You can go over your arm. You'll know basically where it is. A little bit more shadow under his chin. And kind of going into the mitt there too, I think. And just up that one side of the mouth. And under his little nose there. And around his eye. Put a little bit of this in here. And then a little bit more on my brush of white, but I still have that blue on there, so it's mixing. And we'll put that bluish color in again. So it'll be more blue on the right side. And then as we go towards the left, it gets lighter. So add more white as you start going around. And the top of his head would be a little bit lighter too. Now I can put his eyebrows in again, so if it's easier, just paint over it. You can always paint back over top of acrylics. That's the nice thing about acrylics. And just a little bit of that blue again for his eyes. Put that in, back in. And he's got coal for his eyes, so we'll put that in a little bit right there on the top part of his lip. And I'm going to put a little bit more white there. Just blend it in a little bit more, like that. And there. And if it's starting to feel tacky, almost like your paintbrush is kind of it's not gliding anymore, then let it dry, because a lot of times that means your paint is starting to dry. And if you try and paint over top of that, what happens is you might lift the paint instead of putting it down. And then it's very difficult to fix that. So while that's drying, I'm going to do the mitt. And I'm going to mix a little bit of white. So I'm going to take some of this white and just a tad of that red at a time. Now you will get pink. To make that more into a red, take some of that sienna color, and it'll kind of tone it down, so to speak. Now we do want that lighter color in, and then we'll go over top of it with a darker red for the shadows. And use the brush that's comfortable for you. So this one has quite a bit of a point on it, so I'm able to work a lot of the area with it. But use your number 2 or a 4 round if you want to be more precise. I'll switch to that now. So this is a number 4. Just make it a little bit more even around the edges. This one here. Can hardly see the line on there. You can change it if you want. Make it. Now, this has got black underneath it, so I'm going to have to put probably a couple coats to stop the black from showing through. And while that's drying, let's do our sienna color. And I'm just gonna take the sienna without mixing anything and just put that in. And then I'll put some other color, black maybe, or mix a little blue and that'll darken it. So I'm going in towards the center of that body there, because I remember I painted over it just to make it easier on myself. Little nubs. You could use a Posca marker if you have one of the larger sized ones. I don't have those. I only have the fine liners, so you have the larger ones, then use those. And let's see what else. These little eyebrows are brown, so we could put those in now. That. And I think I'm going to use Posca to do the mouth. The orange, I'm going to mix that orange with a little bit of that sienna color. I don't want it quite as bright. There's our little nose. So he's cute. And he was easy to do. Okay. Now let's add a little bit more red to this. And give that another coat. This one's pretty well coated, but I'll just add another coat to that. Now he does have a little bit of a darker shadow on his nose underneath, so I'm just taking sienna and just putting a line underneath there, like that. Just a bit. And then just probably around the edge too. Now I'm going to mix some of that Payne's Gray with raw sienna. And it'll give me a really dark brown. So I'm going to just use that for shadow. So underneath his arm, so wherever the one side will be shadowed. That. And a little bit on by the mitt be shadowed there. And the same here. It'll be on the body side of the arm where it meets the body, and underneath, and a little bit by the mitt, like that. And you could put a little bit of a lighter color for the highlights, so just add a little bit of white to that mix. Maybe some more sienna in there. And then just do a little bit of, well, it's not quite white enough. You want to be able to see it. And just kind of stroke it, because it is wood. So you would have a little bit of rough looking areas like that. And you could actually put a little bit on the top of his nose, maybe even whiter, like that. That looks good. And then I'm going to take uh, just the pure red, and I'm going to go back over top of this so it's more of a red color instead of pink. So that's the thing about red. When you're wanting to lighten it, you either have to find a lighter red in the craft paint or you have to darken it with either a blue or purple, that type of thing. All right, and then we can take some of that sienna color. I'm running out. And mix a nice dark. So if you get sienna and Payne's gray, usually you can get a fairly dark. If you have black, use black. All right. So we want a little eyeball. Like that. And I'm going to make it a little bit darker underneath his chin. And I'm going to try and use this. So just dip it in. I've got water on my brush. And I just want this a little bit darker. Right under here. Kind of going up the side of his head a little bit. And just down in by his mitt. While it's still wet, take your brush, rinse it off, and then add a little bit of water, and then just go along the edge and then just kind of what they call scumbling. And you just kind of move that paint upwards so that it has a nice gradient look to it. So you do the same on here, a little bit more. And it takes a while to you have to practice it like anything else. And a little bit under his arm here. You do want contrast. And this is a great way to practice that. It's in your journal. Okay. And if you find it dry, just take some white. Add some white and do the same thing. Kind of scumble. And that'll help. A little bit more on the under here. Like that. Under here, it's fairly dark. And just clean brush, just move that paint around, bring it out. And if it's dry, just add a little bit of the other color. A lot of times that'll reactivate it too. that. Good. He's cute. A little bit on the bottom here. Just a bit. It needs to be darker in here. A little bit on the bottom here. Especially down right in here, right near the very bottom. That'd be dark, a lot darker. So now you could actually use a fine Posca or an Indian ink would work, and do some sketchy lines if you wanted to. That always looks cool too. It's cute. A little bit darker in there. Just on the very inner edge where it would be the darkest. And maybe just a bit around the nose. That. Okay. He's pretty good. Okay. Now let's do a little bit more pinky on the mitt. So to give it dimension, you would have a lighter area on the mitt. But you can use your red. Doesn't have to be a lot. Blend it in. A little bit lighter in this one here. And it's a mitt, so it's going to have texture. So I wouldn't worry too much about if you find you got a little bit of texture going on there. That's fine. Okay. And I'm going to give them a little bit of a nub here. Right there. All right. He's cute. All right, and he's got polka dots. So you can either use your round or you could use, if you have a real point on your brush, like this one here, just dip it in your white paint, the bottom of it, like that. And then you can put your dots on. That way you kind of have the same size. Because it is kind of hard to put dots with a paintbrush, believe it or not. This is much easier. Who doesn't like polka dots? There. It looks cute. All right. So let's dry that. All right. And now we can take a Posca, or if you have a really, really fine brush like this. See if this is even good. Sometimes they're not. Yeah, see how fine that is? And kind of a watered down, consistency because you wanna flow it off your brush. You don't want it too thick. See if I can do it. And then there's just little lines on I just use the, sienna. It just has these little lines on his nose. You could use, like I said, Posca if you have the really, fine Poscas. That's fine. And then I'm gonna do his mouth with this, so I do have a you have to be kind of quick. You can't it's not good to go slow. You find you're jittery more if you try to do it slowly. Like I said, this is Posca, so or acrylic paint, so it's easy enough to paint over if you make a mistake. So there he is. Um, now I could let's just I'm gonna give him a little bit more white on his belly here, just to show that light area. So you can go back and fix things if you find it. Maybe you put too much dark on there or not enough, or so you can always go back. And maybe a little bit on his forehead here. He is bumpy though, so I wouldn't go too crazy. I think that works. He's cute. So there's our snowman. So let's see, what else can we do? I'll do one more thing. Something that's winterish. Now I could put trees in if I wanted to. Um, I love these. I think they're so cute. Could do pine cone, cookies. There's boots, a winter hat, snowflakes, berries. Could put some berries down if you wanted to. There's you could make snowflakes with your Poscas. There's mitts. We already did mitts, so how about where did I put that one? I think I forgot one. There's one with trees somewhere. 3 trees on here. Oh, it must be on here. Let's see. Gates. Little bunnies. You could put bunnies visiting. They're cute. There's the trees right there. Let's do some of those. They're easy to do. And we'll put some, this almost looks like a landscape here anyway, so let's put a few of these trees on. So, and we'll just have to add a green. So I'm just going to take the sienna color that we already had on our palette here. And let's put, oh, we can put one here. So we want it just showing where the trunk of the tree is. And then maybe let's put one in here, half of one. Don't have to do the whole thing. You could do half of it. These are just references for you to get inspired by and try painting. So use them the way you want. So we want kind of a bluish green. So deep river green. Hopefully this should be a good color. And this is Delta Ceram Coat. I want it good and shook. I haven't used these in a while. Yeah, that'll be a good color. And let's use our, where did I put it? There it is. Nope, it's not it. Oh, there it is. We'll use our angled brush again. And so this basically tells me where I want my trees. So I'm not going to go over top of him, his arm. This is set back. So we want a nice dark bluey green. So this is the one I'm going to use. And I'm just going to use it full strength. And as you can see, these are just done in clumps. And they're not specific in shape. It's because it has snow on it. So just put some clumps in. And you don't have to make them exactly the same size. I'm going to put it over here a little bit. And there's go over top of your trunk. So they're not all on one side. I know a lot of people do that and don't realize that it looks a little funny when they're sitting. There's no branches at all in front. It's funny. There are. So put them, overlap the trunks. So that'll make it look a little more realistic. It doesn't have to look like real, but it gives you the indication of what they're like. And they do get a little bit more compact as you go up. So it's not as sparse looking. So put a bit more, maybe even in the back here, because remember it's front and back, it's all the way around. Okay, like that. And then we'll take a little bit of the white and we'll lighten that now. And I'm going to take a little bit of the sienna color to put into that green. What that will do, it will desaturate your green so it's not as bright. So while this is still wet, I'm going to go more or less on the center of it. I'm going to leave the bottom part dark, but I want a little bit more lighter color on the top part because there's shadow underneath these, and that dark green that we put on first will be our shadow color. So make sure you leave some of that. You don't have to leave a lot, but leave some. And you can vary the intensity. Maybe you want some that are really bright, some that are not as bright. Kind of dot it too, because you might have areas that are peeking through that didn't get covered. A bit more top here. That. Okay. So we're going to finish this one first, and then we'll do the other one on top. So while that is we'll take white and a little bit of that green in there. We don't want it totally white. And then we'll dab this on top mainly. You kinda have to be a little bit you can't put too many strokes on or it'll all go green because you're playing with wet paint. So you're combining that white with the green. So just dab. Probably and if you find that's too hard, you could dry it. I just like the combination of the white streaking in it when you, do it when it's wet. Just, gives it a little bit more texture, I guess, which they do have a little bit. There. Very, very simple. Okay. Now take your fine, fine brush again, and this time you want, a little bit of a darker brown color. So you mixed your Payne's Gray with your sienna, and that'll give you a darker color. And wherever there's, some areas you can put a little bit of tree branches in, showing that they're not just floating, they're actually connected. Or you could use your Posca and do this. Like that. You don't have to do every single one, but some of them just looks a little more interesting, that's all. Um, you could make some showing some that are kind of broken maybe, 'cause a lot of times these trees do have, broken branches. Um, and then I'm gonna wipe my brush off and just dry brush on the bottom to give it a little bit of texture. Okay? That's all we're gonna do to that. Simple, simple. Okay, so we're gonna do the same thing with this one, but, they're gonna be a little bit bigger. So I don't move any of this, I'm gonna dry this first. Alright. So again, same thing. We're gonna take our dark green first. And we're gonna make some branches or tufts of, um and I'm gonna go over top parts of this because this one's up front, so you're gonna see it more. And you might see a little bit more, actual pine needles, clusters. So you might wanna do that too. Add a little bit more. Now I'm not gonna, do a lot. Maybe one here, right in front. And Okay. And then I'm just going to take that brown and just extend that up. I'm going to make it a little bit darker, the trunk of the tree, just so that it's showing it's going to be up a little bit more than the other one. A little bit of dry brushing on the bottom. Let's put a little bit more on there. A little bit. Like that. I'm going to take a little bit of blue even, a Payne's gray. Mix a little bit of that on the very bottom because this is right up close. So you're going to see a little bit more color variation than the one setting back. So you mix the two like that. Okay. Now I'm gonna dry this one. All right. Now I want to take that same color of actually I need some more white. See if we can get a little bit more out of here. Hopefully. I'm gonna bang. Yeah. And then that white with a little bit of that green, maybe a little bit of the blue. Just want a little bit lighter. And we'll add that color basically on the bottom part, or in the center, I should say, not on the bottom. You can leave a few dabs here and there that wouldn't be covered because it's closer, so you're seeing more detail than you would the other ones that are far back. So it's not as fully covered. You still want to do the medium highlight, I guess you would call it. Like that. Maybe a little bit there. Okay. And then you want to go lighter again. So you want that white, but not quite as, not white white. And then more or less on the tops, you want that color. So think about the snow, how it would be covering this. There would be shadows, highlights. A little more coverage on the top parts usually. You've been in an area where you see the snow on the pine trees, you'll know what I mean. Like that. A little bit more on here. I'm going to put a little bit of white just on there. I want it fairly. I'm going to just put a few on here, just a bit more. That okay? All right, so now we could take that and use up the rest on the ground here. Maybe it's a lot of times you'll see snow whipping up the tree, depending on how the wind's blowing. A little bit of shadow, maybe. Mix a little bit of a shadow color in here. That. A little bit of shadow color on the back of the tree. If the sun's going this way, then there'd be probably a shadow under the tree here. You can do that. I think that's good. So there we are. There's our little practice page. And using up our jelly prints, and we're still using parts of the jelly print. So you don't have to cover everything up on your jelly print. I've kind of made it into a scene. You have to see what you're seeing in your gel prints. Maybe you won't see anything and you end up just putting other things on top of it and using it as strictly a background. You can also, if you're not satisfied with a background like this here, it's okay. But what you can do is get your stencils out. We have a ton of stencils. At least I do, and why not use them? Everyone was really crazy stencil. They had to have them all type of thing. So why not play with your stencils more for your backgrounds? I like using them in backgrounds. Let's see. I could use a pattern one, or you could go more into like this one here, and just put bits and pieces of either paint. I think that yeah, I got my little thing of sponges. And maybe blue, or let's see, let's do this. A little bit of maybe blue. Doesn't have to be the whole thing either. I like using bits and pieces. And I'll go right over top of writing or whatever. You can still see through the writing. And it doesn't take much. You could also use your ink pads. And just give it a little bit of extra interest. Like that. So and then if you wanted to, you could, let's see, you can go over top of, presents. Mm, let's do some red. A little touchy, but you can do it. Just play. And even if it doesn't work out, that's fine too. At least you played with something. All right, back. And then there you have it. There's the I can put more words on there. Um, Washi tape could go on there. There's a piece of washi tape right here. If you want to, on one of my other journals, I use washi tape on the edges to represent the month. You could do that. One thing I want to make sure you do, though, sign your work. So many times I've seen people not know when they did that. So today is the 4th. So 1, 4, 24. And there we have it, our little guy. I could put some more words on there, but it's a start. And this is what I like to do. Not all the time do I like doing this type of thing about my day, illustrate my day. Maybe I don't want to illustrate the day, but I want to practice drawing something. Use your papers. We have a ton of them. There's no point in just keeping them in a box somewhere. So that's why I'm using mine because I have a ton and I want to use them up this year. And I'm going to try my best to keep this up all year. And I'll be each month making a collection for you to download on Patreon and the YouTube um, membership. And you can practice each month. And with that, you're going to improve your drawing, your confidence, and have something beautiful to look at too. So I hope you enjoyed this, and I will let you go and get your sketchbook ready. And it's not too late. It's never too late. If you decide you don't want to do this till June, awesome. Just do it. If you don't want to use your jelly prints and get something else. At least do it. If you find you want to use magazines to do this on, you could always use gesso and gesso over the page and use it that way too. So no excuses, guys. I want you to get creative, get more confident in drawing, and you will be amazed on how much um, creativity that you will see when you aren't scared to sketch or draw something. It'll be endless what you can do then. And it becomes an enjoyable challenge. Don't ever think of it as a failure. It's a challenge to learn. And not all of them are going to turn out, but don't take it so seriously. It's teaching. It's like cooking. It's like learning how to speak Spanish. It's learning how to do anything. You have to practice to get good at it and to understand it. So I hope this has inspired you, and we'll see you next week. Have a fantastic weekend, and don't forget to enjoy the journey. Bye for now.